The process of sound. Speech works. Air moves out of the lungs, vibrating the pathways. Air is then filtered to produce sound, using articulators to produce specific speech sounds. Sound pathways. Oral cavity, pharyngeal cavity, nasal cavity. Articulators are tongue, velum, lips, and jaw. The resonators. Our voice as a resonator is an acoustic resonator. It's a quarter wave resonator, meaning that it is open on one end and closed on the other. Fundamental frequency. The lowest frequency of a sound begins in the glottis and the source function. Excuse me. Filters in the vocal tract. Filters out some air, amplifies the frequency closest to the resonant frequency. Prevents resonant frequency from being transmitted. The M sound. It is voiced, a bilabial nasal, glottal sound. The oral resonating cavity is the largest of the three nasals. The vocal tract is completely closed during nasals and constricted. Does not pass through the oral tract. Lowered soft palate helps continue the airflow. Formant transitions consist of F1 being around 250 to 300 Hz, while F2 is around 2500 Hz. Source filter theory in N. The source filter for the sound of the M is a nasal that closes off the oral cavity, creating a long pipe that opens towards the nasal cavity. The oral cavity is closed. Closed shape does help the shape of the sound of the M come out of the nasal cavity. The ah sound occurs in the larynx, high back vowel, voiced. Sound is created in the low back part of the oral cavity. Periodic complex wave creates a tube in the vocal tract. The soft palate is raised to close off the nasal cavity. For a male's voice, the frequency is 130 Hz. If the nasopharyngeal tract is closed, the ah sound is deeper versus when it's open. Female's voice, frequency 187 Hz. The formant's F1 is about 740 Hz. F2 is 1180 Hz for an adult male. The source filter theory in ah. The ah sound is created in the back part of the oral cavity. In the next slide, you'll see a picture that shows an example of the source filter theory and how the pipe works. The pipe in the ah sound is skinny when it's coming up from the glottis, and as it comes towards the oral cavity, it gets wider and expands towards the lips. In this picture, you can see that we're focusing on the ah sound, and the middle part is the example of the the voice tract, and it's getting wider as it's coming out of the mouth. And then we're excited.